Welcome YouTube. This is Darius back with another trade interview. This so happens to be Tiffany. Tiffany has been trading since 2020, so you could say she's a COVID trader. Started with stock, then went to options, and maybe potentially trading futures, etc. Any asset can get traded. She even has her own brand, Big Brains Trading. So we'll be able to hear more about her brand, her trading performance, and just being able to start out as a trader, what advice. So it's going to be a great open conversation, and we'll be able to learn a lot. So I'll deliver it to you, Tiffany. Please go ahead and give us a great intro.
So hi, my name is Tiffany. As you guys know, I am the co-founder of Big Brains Trading, which I'm really excited for, and it's basically a stock and options education page. I kind of created that page in order to kind of solidify and simplify the basics of options and stocks, just because there is so much more information out there on the internet. And I know as a beginner, when I started last year in January, it was very difficult for me to try to understand and grasp the different concepts of stocks, and then what an option is, and then going into and dividing delving into the concept of like what options are and how it differs from just buying common stock and what the market really does. So a lot of these concepts I thought were pretty difficult as a beginner to grasp, and so that's why I wanted to create Big Brains Trading, just because it is a bunch of Instagram posts and also a bunch of little slideshows that does help the beginner kind of understand and grasp the concepts better. And so I didn't start options until a couple months after I did common stock, and to find out that I loved options, I'm deciding to go on to futures trading. And so I'm just really excited to see what the trading journey holds for the future.
Okay. Wow, that sounds good. So you really were able to first not go straight to options. That was really important to hear, that you didn't go straight to options. Mm-hmm. And even stock, like that's honestly, I tell a lot of people, starting at stock is honestly your best bet. And you're not going to have those big drawdowns unless it's sometimes crazy stuff happens. But other than that, you're not going to see a Microsoft go down 20% or 40% in a week like we see Bitcoin. So as far as your emotions are intact with stocks, as far as your position size, your risk is very low, and you can just kind of learn through there and have like minor lessons that doesn't have a lot of major drawdown. So can you just walk us through, how was it buying your like first stock, and like, were you nervous? Like, how did you feel about it? Was it a success? Was it a loss? Like, you just tell us a little bit more about your first trade. Because I remember mine. Mine was a Starbucks trade. I was so happy about it and so on. But this is more about you.
Mm-hmm. So it's actually really funny because my very first stock was Nikola, NKLA. Oh. So it was the electric vehicle stock that kind of went up. It was a competitor of Tesla for a while before it was kind of exposed as like a very, iffy kind of stock and company. So I was able to make a couple of dollars off of it, which was really nice. So I think I bought it one day and then I sold it the next. So I really didn't understand the concept of like buy and holding. And I know a lot of people off of like Reddit, Wall Street Bets, they kind of praise this phrase, which is like hold, or like bag holding, hodl, all that stuff. So yes, hodl, yes.
That's what it is, yes.
Mm-hmm. So like a lot of the times I would just be kind of day trading the stock, and then I would be like, oh, this is actually really fun, but like, I don't really have a lot of capital to start with. When I started trading, I didn't trade with more than maybe 1 or 2K. So as a beginner, that's really not a lot to leverage, especially if you're trying to buy like Tesla, which is at that time, it wasn't split yet. So it was kind of like in the 2,000-3,000s. And so with common stock, it was just really interesting for me because you could day trade it, you can hold it, you can hold it for a long amount of time, or you can develop a strategy that helps you get quick profits, or if you want it to be a long-term holder. There's many different strategies that you were able to learn with just common stock, and I agree with you that common stock is just a really good way to start, just because options, you have to deal with theta, vega, delta, you have to deal with the IV crush, you have to deal with premium, you have to deal with expiration dates. So there's a lot of things that go into options that we take for granted when we're trading stocks. Yes. And like, even if I'll be honest with you, if I had the capital, like if I had millions to trade for common stock, I would, like 100%. I would.
Right.
Just 100%.
Little 2x leverage. I buy Apple at $140. and then I sell it for 140.75. I did my work for the day. Like,
there you go.
Oh man, bounce off of VWAPs, etc. I already know.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, did you, as a beginner, did you have any habits that were like unhealthy or habits that were healthy? How did you react to that, etc. As a beginner?
So I think as for every beginner, I think we're just kind of influenced by social media. Like, hey, you want to go into stocks and investing and trading because you can make big amounts of money. And I think something that really influenced me to go into stock trading and investing is, dude, I saw people with like 100K gains, 10K gains, and I was like, I want to be part of that too. And so as a beginner, you're just kind of like, oh my God, I'm dreaming of like getting a Lambo, starting a business and being able to be successful. And then later on down that road, when you go down that trader's journey, you kind of realize like, oh man, like I'm only on chapter 1. These people are on like chapter 27, And so I think like as a beginner, social media can be either your biggest influence or also your biggest downfall, because I think there's a lot of comparison between our trading and then other people's trading. So like, for example, when I was first starting out, I would be okay with $20 gains, $40 gains, right? And then as you move on and as you level up, you kind of like, oh my God, $20 is like nothing, I'm trying to get $200 now.
Slippage. Yeah, I paid that
there
in
you
slippage
go.
or commission fees. Yeah.
There you go. And so I think something that I still struggle with today is that I need to be okay with my progress and the type of money that I'm making so far in the market according to my abilities, and to just stop comparing myself to other people who have had 8, 10, 12 plus years in the market and the experience. And it's difficult for a trader to kind of face that reality, like, hey, there's a lot more work that people really don't see behind these big gains as they call it. And so I think that like as a new trader, I think we just need to be focused on our own progress instead of being focused on what other people are doing. And even as a student, like I'm still learning to do that. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but you have to get rid of that FOMO, especially when you're in a game, in a market where they're trying to take your money.
Right. When I say I read a few books and it kills me to read it. So they'll talk about the participants. You have the actual exchange. The exchange will always win. You have the other traders who may have more experience. They may be using computers, etc. Then you have your trading firms, your quant funds, and then also your big banks. So as far as getting in the market and truly like looking around and seeing who's around you, it can be intimidating. So that's a good segue into yourself. Like, how do you keep yourself either humble or keep yourself in a vacuum, basically, like away from all of the pressures in the market?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So I'm saying, how do you pretty much separate yourself from all of that? Intimidation, basically.
Intimidation, I think fear is kind of like one of the biggest things in life that we kind of have to face. So the fear of failing, the fear of missing out, the fear of not being able to feel good enough in the market. And I think the market offers so many opportunities for us to take advantage of, or at least like to learn from, that I don't think there's ever a losing opportunity in the market to ever make money or ever to learn a lesson from it. And I think that every passing trading day that goes by, there's always something to look forward to. So even on days that I take a loss, and it's normal to take losses just because it is part of the game, you gotta revamp your strategy, you gotta make it stronger. And I think that just staying focused is gonna help with that fear of, oh, I'm going against the hedge funds, or oh, I'm going against like these bankers or like these financial advisors or even other retail traders. Like, you just can't get into that mindset of, oh, I'm not good enough because I'm at this level, or oh, I'm not good enough because I don't make this amount of money. Because one day, like, the persistence and the perseverance of your continuation in the market and learning and being able to learn from your failures and your mistakes is only going to make you a stronger trader and a stronger person in general. So even with life in general, like, you just can't let fear get to you. Even if somebody else is, if somebody else is telling you, hey, I don't think trading is a good idea. And trust me, like, I've dealt with that so many times, and I still continue to do, like, from family members, from friends, like, hey, like, why are you trading? Like, why don't you just go get a normal 9 to 5? And, you know, and being so young, you kind of face that fear of, oh, you know, what if I'm not good enough because I'm only like 20 years old, and there's these people with like 20, 30 years of experience that I'm going up against. And I feel like there's an opportunity for everyone. There's no specific age, date when you should be starting to trade or when you should be starting to learn. I think that everybody has their own edge in the market, and they should best use it to their advantage.
Right. As a potential, later down the line when I have kids and whatnot, I want my kids to know trading from back to forth. I mean, it's like when you learn about George Washington, I need you to also learn about that option theta. Like, I really think the world will be changing so drastically to the point where everyone trades. So you can kind of see a little bit more that everyone's trading right now, Robinhood, etc. But I think it's going to be ramped up even more 10, 20 years down the line. I really want to ask, I know this is not specific to your trading, but what do you think about the Degen community as far as HODL, as far as diamond hands, your meme stocks? Like, have you participated in any of that? Do you just laugh at that, etc.? I personally have done some diamond hands on some losing options, and by no means will I ever do that again. So I just want to hear about you as far as, like, what do you think about the Degen movement?
So in my opinion, honestly, I think that the community is actually a really great place to start and to learn from people and to get not financial advice, but, you know, kind of talk to somebody like, hey, you know, I just want to know your opinion on this, and taking it with a grain of salt as well, just because doing your own due diligence and doing research is honestly the best thing that you can possibly do, especially with everybody having the different mindset and also the different risk management. So in all honesty, I really don't see the community as like bad or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a really great way to resource and also allocate like knowledge with one another, as long as you're being responsible, you know, not YOLOing your savings into other people's picks and stuff, you know. Always gotta do your due diligence.
Right.
So I mean, I am on Reddit and I do see the Wall Street posts, and I think they are pretty funny, so I'm not gonna lie about that. So it's actually really entertaining. But even on Instagram and even on Twitter, you know, you have these people that are talking about stocks the same way, maybe not in the same language that they're using, but somewhat of the same concept, like, hey, you know, take a look at this stock. I think this stock is about to pop. Or like, hey, you know, this stock is looking like it's being shorted a lot. You know, do you think that we should go long on it? And so I think social media has been very powerful in the last few years, just because 20 years ago, you know, our parents, or even like the boomer generation, they didn't have access to all of these social media platforms that was like, hey, you know, I think this hedge fund is going to short this stock, or like this information belongs to this. So the entirety of social media has just changed the game of investing and trading, which I think is awesome, because it allows more people to have access to financial information or information about how to trade, how to read stocks, how to read charts. And I think Reddit has brought in a lot of my generation, so like Gen Z, I think, Gen Z, into investing and trading, which I think is really cool. And I know we had a little bit of a phase back in maybe 2016-ish, where schools were trying to bring in more kids into the engineering field, the software, you know, like women in computer science, and, you know, people of color. And so all of those opportunities are now leaning into finance, which is really, really cool. So now a lot more people can kind of realize, like, hey, you know, there's more opportunities in the finance world to become financially literate, just because a lot of people don't really have access to that type of knowledge. So I think social media is a very cool place to get
cool
resources from.
Thank you for that. I really want to see